my placement year and my final year is what has really shaped me. And I say that just because with the placement year, I was exposed to different people in different teams.
Hello and welcome to the International Student Experience, a Swansea University podcast where we delve into the journeys and stories of students from around the world who've chosen to study here in the UK. I'm your host, Dav Turner, and today I'm joined by Khushbu Nayer. Thank you for joining us today, Khushbu.
Thank you for having me.
If you could just start by introducing yourself with who you are, where you're from, and what you've studied, please.
Sure. So my name is Khushbu Nayer. I'm from Zimbabwe. I was born and raised there, and I've studied biomedical engineering.
Did you do a year in industry as well?
I did, yes.
How was that?
That was amazing. It was a really good experience, very insightful.
Where did you go for that placement year?
I was in Surrey, in Guildford, and I worked at a company called Angle PLC, which is a cancer research company for medical devices.
And how did you find that? Was that like through the course?
So the course was very helpful in terms of assisting me with finding placements and stuff. But it was actually my friend who introduced me to the opportunity, and I applied through her, basically.
So biomedical engineering, how did you get into that? What was your educational journey like before you came to Swansea?
Before I came to Swansea, I completed my studies in Zimbabwe, both my primary and high school. And biomedical engineering kind of came about when I spoke to someone who actually was a student at Swansea at the time. And I was debating between something within the healthcare field. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to go into. But when I spoke to him, he introduced me to the degree, which I actually had never heard about before. And when he told me about it, he explained it in a way that it was kind of a blend between two worlds, medicine and engineering. And that's where my interest for it grew.
What got you into healthcare? Like where did your interest for it come from?
So my first memory of where my interest came from was actually when earlier I used to have really bad skin when I was younger. And my mom took me to a dermatologist, and they really helped me in terms of understanding why I had that bad skin, which was actually a dairy allergy, not really to do with anything else. So I initially started off wanting to be a dermatologist, but as I learned more about it, I learned it was going to be about 15 years of study, which, to be honest, I was not ready for. And then I just experienced different fields within healthcare. So I interned at a pharmacy, I interned with a dentist, and then finally I found my passion in biomedical engineering.
Okay, because it's an interesting mix of the two aspects in this, because you've got the biology, the biomedical part, and the engineering.
Yes.
How have you found those worlds collide in the course? Like, what's that been like to try and balance those two areas?
So I think Swansea University has done an amazing job at combining those two worlds, because I don't think anyone on a normal day would really think you could really combine it. But once you learn this degree, you understand that these two are better combined than being themselves, especially in healthcare where, you need new technologies every day to improve the healthcare system, especially within this country. So involving technology with the human body is honestly an amazing thing. And it's been amazing learning them both, yeah.
What did your mum think about you going into that? Did she have any idea that by taking you to a dermatologist, that would set you off on like a life path?
No, I don't think she knew. As I said, I was very young. So at the time, I wasn't really thinking about my career choices. I don't think my mom ever really knew what I wanted to do until about the last few years of high school, where I told her what I was very interested in. I think she knew in the last few years that I wanted to go into healthcare, but she also wasn't sure what exactly. It was only actually in my last year, my A-levels, where when I understood biomedical engineering, she also saw my passion for it.
Great. So you said you were born and raised in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Had you left Zimbabwe? Had you left the country at all? Like, was coming here like your first experience of traveling?
No. So actually, me and my family, we both love traveling a lot. So we've been to many places in the world. And I have an aunt in the UK, so we would visit her very frequently. Oh, okay. So prior to starting university in the UK, I'd been a couple of times.
Okay. So were you able to come and visit Swansea before you joined?
No, unfortunately, I actually hadn't come to Swansea before. I even attended the virtual open day because when I applied and when I joined, it was kind of the brink of COVID. Okay. So I didn't have the opportunity to come to Swansea and view the uni.
Was the virtual open day, was that as part of your research of like deciding where you wanted to study? Like, how did you come across Swansea?
It was actually my careers teacher at my high school. She was very well knowledgeable about all the universities in the UK, especially. And she told me about Swansea University because of its high rankings, especially within engineering. And that's how I found out about Swansea. I didn't know before.
and you found the course, read up on it, and then you came. So what were your first impressions? So if you weren't able to come here physically,
Right.
when you did first come here, what did you think?
Wow, it's very cold. That was honestly my very first impression, because I came in October actually to the university, and especially with the university being directly on the beach, I did find it very cold. So that was my initial impression, but alongside that, it was also that Swansea is very beautiful. And yeah, those were my first two impressions. It's cold and it's beautiful.
How did you, like, for want of a better word, acclimatise yourself to Swansea? Like, what were those first few weeks like?
They were very hard, if I'm being completely honest, because as I mentioned, it was the brink of COVID. So I was by myself. I couldn't even move with my parents. Thankfully, I have my aunt, my mom's sister. She played a big role in helping me settle down. She came with me on my first day to Swansea, stayed with me one night, helped me settle down a bit, and then she had to go back. And settling down was quite difficult because everything was very isolated. We didn't have in-person lectures. You couldn't really socialize with anyone. And especially like navigating a new place completely by myself with no direct help from people. It was all like online. It was definitely difficult.
What were the most difficult things that you had to try and navigate on your own?
I think it was the transport systems, first of all. Back home, I'm just used to being driven around. Here, I never really used public transport back home. So getting used to the system here, understanding where to stop. I didn't even know, actually, one time I was on the way to the gym and I didn't know you're supposed to press the button in the bus. So I thought they just stopped at every stop. So he kept driving and I went up to him and I said, "Oh, you missed the stop." And he told me you actually need to press. So I think it was just the small things, like understanding where to do my grocery shopping, where to go to gym, what public transport to use, those small stuff like that, yeah.
Was there anyone who was able to advise you with that, or did you just have to find it out yourself the hard way?
So as I mentioned, my aunt, she definitely helped me with understanding the UK and the culture a bit more. And I think also Swansea University, they were very easily accessible in terms of also making me aware of the support that was available to me. So definitely my aunt and Swansea University.
That support, what support were you able to draw on here? Like, what are the staff like? What were your impressions of the support staff here?
I was very impressed because everyone was so friendly and it was very easy to ask a question without feeling judged, especially being an international student and not knowing much about the country. Sometimes I would shy away from questions, but once I got the understanding that the university wanted to help me and they were there for me, it became very easy to ask the questions.
What about people outside the university? Like, what did Swansea feel like? What's that community, both the location and the people? What has that felt like?
So surprisingly, it felt very much like home, which I was not expecting. But I think that's because you have the best of both worlds in Swansea, both the city and countryside, which is kind of similar to back home, where it's very beautiful nature-wise. And I was really happy that in Swansea, I had that as well, especially with the people. Everyone is very down to earth, very humble, very friendly. You know, you can go anywhere in the city and everyone will give you a smile. No one really has a hostile face. So both people-wise and country-wise, I really like the place.
Are you an outdoorsy person? Do you get to explore around here?
So I wouldn't say I'm a nature person per se, but I definitely am very adventurous.
Okay.
So I did explore quite a lot in Swansea over my 4 years here. Not really in first year. I was only actually here for 2 months. But throughout the other 3 years, I did explore quite a bit, yes.
Where have you explored? What are your favourite things to do?
So Rosilly, Three Bay, am I getting it wrong?
Three Cliffs
Bay, right? And the Four Falls Walk. I really like seeing that. And even just Swansea University itself, between the two campuses, there's so much to see.
You're a fairly active person then?
Yes, I definitely would say I am. Yeah.
How do you balance that? Like, what are you able to do to be active when you're here alongside your studies?
So I think just going to the gym regularly and also taking walks for me were my kind of forms of keeping active. And balancing that along my studies, it was hard in second year when things became in person. I was trying to adjust the two and balance everything alongside the other extracurriculars I was doing. But I think just having a good routine in general, that really helped me balance everything, yeah.
Is having a routine kind of critical to managing that balance, do you think?
100% yes. I think if you don't have a routine, it's very hard to kind of balance everything and make sure you're getting everything done in the day that you want to get done.
Do you just do it yourself, or have you got like a good social network around you to help with that?
Having people around you that are equally motivated and not that have exact same goals as you, but goals in general, it does motivate you to keep abreast with yourself and, strive for the best. So definitely having a social network around me who was as motivated as me helped.
You mentioned extracurriculars just
Yes.
now. Like, what have you been able to do when you've been here?
So there's quite a bit I've done over the last few years. In first year, I started off by volunteering for Discovery.
Okay.
But that was just all online. So how that started was I started with a pen pal scheme. We were just writing to the elderly to kind of give them company. And then there was also a scheme where we would teach people online, especially the elderly, how to use things like online checkout and stuff they hadn't come across before, which was introduced to them because of COVID. And then in my second year, I joined the Women in Engineering Society. I joined as the events coordinator. I also joined as the events coordinator for the Asian and Zimbabwean societies. And then in my third year, that was my placement. So I stayed on as secretary for the Women in Engineering Society. And then when I came back in my fourth year, fortunately, I was president for Women in Engineering Society. I was promoted to senior student ambassador, and I was also school rep for my faculty.
That's quite a lot.
It was, yeah.
The Women in Engineering Society, what made you want to join that? Like, what have you got out of that over the past few years?
Well, there's a lot, to be honest, but my initial motivation was just a platform, like a community that was there to support women, especially in a field where it's more male dominated, just to have a group of, like a family, to be honest, that was there to empower women. That was my main motivation for joining.
Were you aware of that gender split before you joined the course, or was it only something that you really noticed when you started the studies?
So I was aware of it before I joined the course, but actually my course, biomedical engineering, it was more female dominated. But of course, because we had other modules collaborating with other engineering disciplines such as mechanical, aerospace, I did see that it was definitely more male dominated.
And then with your society, you can help with that? Like, what does the society really do? Like, what can someone who isn't part of that society, or someone who's considering going into engineering, like what value is that able to offer them?
So there's a lot we are able to offer them as a society, and the main thing being just a family of women that's there for you to support you through everything, whether that's career related, personal life. We really want to provide a platform where women feel comfortable talking to us about whatever they're going through. So we don't want to make it seem like we're just there for academic and career purposes. We really want to build a bond with our members where they really have a deep understanding that we are there for them. So some of the things we would do was different types of socials, such as paint and sips, and also career-related ones. So we had collaborations with companies like BlackRock, JLR. So that was very beneficial for them.
Do you think it's important to have those strong foundations as a woman in engineering, because it's generally such a male-dominated field?
Yeah.
Do you think it's important wherever you are to try and make those connections and build those communities?
100%. I think in life in general, one of the most important factors is networking and understanding the community of people around you and how they can support you. So especially in university where, it is one of the places you can feel the most alone, the most homesick. So if you have a society to fall back on, a reliable society that's just there for you to provide that support at any time, really, I think it's great.
Did you ever struggle with feeling alone or homesick at all?
100%. I think especially in my first year, it was COVID. I was by myself. I couldn't really socialize with anyone because of the restrictions. There was also a lockdown that happened just 2 weeks after I came. But fortunately, one of my friends from back home, she was staying in the same accommodation.
Oh, okay.
I actually went to high school with her. So very small world, but I had her by my side.
Did you know she was going to be here, or was it a surprise when you came?
So a bit of both. I went to 2 high schools. For my first 4 years, I was with her. And then my last 2 years of high school, so my A-levels, I was in another school. And when we got our results, she posted on her WhatsApp status that she had gotten into Swansea. And I replied her status saying, oh, I got in as well. But at the time, I wasn't sure if I was coming to Swansea or not. And she was like, oh my gosh, you have to come to Swansea. We'll be together. And she asked what I was studying. I said biomedical engineering. What are you studying? She said the same thing. And I was like, wow, what a small world. And over the 2 years that I was in a different school, we kept in touch from time to time, but we were never very close friends to start off with. We were just friends because of the school we went to. But now she's honestly like a sister. Yeah.
I'd imagine as an international student, being away from home, being away from family, completely alone and almost isolated in a way, that being able to make those connections, any connections when you first come here, are like completely vital. What else were you able to do? I mean, that first year must have been quite difficult. What else were you doing to like keep yourself going?
So I was only here for 2 months, and within those 2 months, I was just managing my workload. It was a little bit of a big jump from A-levels, but not too much of a big jump. So I think just understanding how to set my foot in the UK, get up to date with all the new things around me, studying, all that kind of stuff. I was very, very to myself in my first year. I wasn't really doing much outside of my degree.
What about that second year? What was that like when you were finally able to see people and do things and visit campus and physically experience university? Like, how is that different? Like, what was that like? So
it was amazing. Just seeing everyone on campus every day. The university was so vibrant. It really motivated me to just, get out of my bed, because I was so used to COVID, being in the room the whole day, not really doing much outside of the room. So coming into second year where everything was practically back to normal, it felt very good. It felt like a new life almost.
I suppose every year then for you over the past few years has been completely different.
Completely, yes, 100%.
How was the placement year? Like, how did you transition into that? What was that like?
So that was honestly probably one of my best years in university, just because of the experience that placement gave me. So moving to a new place, experiencing Guildford. And fortunately, I was with a course mate. She is the one who told me about the opportunity to apply for that placement. And we were together in the same company, in the same team. So both of us were just experiencing a completely new opportunity together. It was great.
Do you think having that experience of the placement year has given you good experience to take that forward after you finished your course? Like, is it something you recommend anyone to do?
Definitely. If anyone asked me what I really recommend them to do in university, it would be to get experience, whether that's a year abroad, a year in industry, or even just summer internships, because I don't think I really understood how much I would change as a person coming out of placement. The benefits are honestly like several, just from personal skills, professional skills, and also getting a deeper understanding into what my degree can offer me. I wasn't very knowledgeable about the different sectors I could go into, but doing a placement year opened me up to those opportunities.
How would you say you've changed as a person over that year? Was that a really formative year?
So yes, 100% I would say so. I think my placement year and my final year is what has really shaped me compared to the first 2 years. And I say that just because with the placement year, I was exposed to different people in different teams, and based on just my confidence from first year right until now, I think it's a massive difference.
You are a different person from start to finish.
Yeah, not like 100% completely new. I do still have some of the same traits from my first and second years, but in terms of confidence and understanding myself better, I would say I'm in a better position now.
What has your fourth year been like? Because you did that placement year, so it's a different environment, different place. What was that transition like going from the placement to coming back to studying?
It was initially a little bit difficult just because I was so used to doing a 9 to 5, coming back and having time to myself to do whatever I really wanted to. So coming back into full-time education, it was a little bit difficult, especially with the pressures of fourth year. But with fourth year, just I think the pressure of that being my final year and me wanting to do my best, it was a lot. But the university is always there to support. So it wasn't too bad, no.
Is the final year quite an intense year then? Like what did your final year look like?
Apart from the modules I had, I also had my leadership positions. I was balancing the two and then also trying to have a bit of a social life. So balancing all of that was a little bit difficult, but I think placement year really helped me with understanding of how important a routine is. I always knew a routine is important just because of my mother. She always tells me how important it is, and seeing her in her day-to-day life, she's a very disciplined person. She has a routine, she sticks to it. So I always had the idea of how important it would be, but experiencing it myself in placement year, that really set me for my final fourth year.
So you mentioned your mum there. Like, how big is your family? Like, what was your upbringing like?
It's just my mom, my dad, and my siblings. I think growing up in Africa has been the best thing for me because having the opportunity to come to the UK, it really allows you to count your blessings and fall back on my upbringing. It was honestly the best, yeah.
Culturally, how different was it? How tricky was it to transition into an entirely new country and culture?
So growing up in Zimbabwe, it is a very culturally diverse place. But that being said, the UK didn't really shock me in terms of the culture shock people say. I say that because I have travelled quite a bit, so I was very familiar with the place. I would visit my aunt and my brother and I, we would stay for quite long periods of times here with my aunt during the school holidays. So it wasn't a complete shock to me, but I think coming to the UK, it is more diverse here compared to Zimbabwe, but I would also say that there is more a sense of family back home compared to here.
Okay. In Swansea, do you think it's useful to have that diversity? Do you think it's useful for a student to like live outside their bubble a little bit, like to experience a new culture?
100% think that's very important. And I say that because everyone has a different upbringing, everyone has different opinions. And if you don't surround yourself with people who have that different upbringing, you will never really grow and you'll never really understand the world for what it is to be. If you're always surrounding yourself with people that think the same, there's not much scope to grow. So I think Swansea being a diverse place, it is very instrumental in someone's university career.
Have you been able to find those people to help you grow, to find those different cultures?
Yes, I have. So being part of the Zimbabwean society as well as the Asian society, I was exposed to people from many different countries in the world, and that really allowed me to grow my network.
Would you recommend any international student to join societies when they first come here to experience those different cultures?
Oh, 100% yes. I would truly say that people, when they come here, they should try to get involved with whatever they can. That doesn't mean put your foot in everything, but if you can join a society or join a sport, I think it's very important because with university being so tedious with all the modules and learning and studying, it can get very monotonous. So if you're not really doing anything outside of university, you can become, I don't want to say depressed, but for lack of a better word, depressed. So if you're surrounding yourself with people, especially if it's something you truly enjoy doing, and the university has so much to offer, there's so many different societies, so many different sports, so many different things you can do in general. So I would highly recommend doing something outside of your studies.
What are your favourite things to do? What do you do for fun?
I think just exploring Wales. It's a very beautiful place. So going around Wales with my friends, going to watch sports games, and also the university has so many events throughout the year. The Students' Union works very hard to give us that opportunity outside of our studies, such as the paints and sips or meeting pets. There's some pet socials or even some of the religious socials I've attended. I think I like to attend those, yeah.
Where have you travelled in Wales? Is everything fairly accessible?
In Swansea, I've been to Mumbles, and then I went to the Four Falls walk recently with my friends. I've also been to Cardiff. That's it in Wales, but in Swansea itself, I really love to go to the beachside.
And we have plenty of those with
yes,
our campuses literally on the door.
Literally.
When the weather isn't brilliant here, during those colder months and you can't visit the beach, what sort of social activities would you get up to? Because it would be very easy to just stay in your room, isolate. Like, what were you doing to make sure that you didn't experience that isolation?
So I think just first of all, going to the gym for me, that's something I like to incorporate in my daily routine, or at least as much as I can with my degree. That's an activity in itself for me. And then also just exploring different restaurants. Even if one thing I've understood with the UK is no matter the weather, you can't let that get you down because if you blame everything on the weather, you will not get anything done. So exploring different restaurants, just walking around Swansea, that's, I guess, what I would do in my free time.
Does Swansea feel like a safe place to be, to walk around, to go to those restaurants, to do things on your own?
Oh, yes, 100%. Because actually, before I came to the UK, my parents were very, very interested in sending me to university that was safe. And with Swansea having a very high ranking of safety in general, it really gave my parents and myself comfort to come to the university. And I never doubted it. But when I came, I truly understood why the university is ranked very highly for being in a city that is very safe. I've never really felt scared to do anything, really, no.
What about work? Have you ever done any part-time work when you've been here?
So I have worked as a student ambassador during my time at Swansea University. I started off in my second year and right until my fourth year.
How was that? Did you enjoy being a student ambassador?
Oh, yes, I did. There's so many opportunities I got to experience being a student ambassador, from open days to calling campaigns to digital creation. So much. I've done a lot with the
How did you find out about the scheme? Like, how did you end up joining?
I saw an Instagram story on Swansea University where they were promoting the applications for the next intake of student ambassadors. And that's the first time I ever understood I could be a student ambassador.
Was it relatively flexible? Like, how did you balance working alongside studies?
So one very good thing is it is a 0-hour contract, meaning it's very flexible around my studies. And I remember from the training, they emphasized that this is based around my studies and studies come first. So that gave me a sense of comfort that, I wasn't going to feel any sort of pressure to do work that I didn't want to. And they send out emails with work opportunities, and it's up to you to apply for them if you are able to, or leave it if, let's just say, you're busy at the time. So I never felt any sort of pressure to do what I could not do. And it was very flexible around my work schedule. And let's just say I did pick up something that I thought I was free for at the time, but something comes up, the team is very understanding that university comes first.
What have your favourite experiences been of being a student ambassador?
So my favourite thing was the calling campaign. I've participated in a few of those, and that's my favourite just because I remember I was in a position of being a student that had applied to Swansea University, not knowing much about the place. So having someone call me was so important. And I remember I was called by the university when I had applied. So now being that person who can call prospective students and assist them, whether that's to do with their application or if they need a better understanding of accommodation or the university or the place in general, I really enjoy being that person for them.
Do you think it's fairly valuable for prospective students to do that research, but to also speak to actual students?
Yes, because no matter how much research you do, it's always better if you can meet someone in person that can give you that knowledge. And the next best thing is to talk to them over the phone. So I definitely think it is instrumental in their decision.
So just thinking about your course, engineering, what do you want to do with that? Like, what's next for you, do you think?
So I've just graduated. Well, I will be graduating next week, but I've just completed my degree and I would love to just get a job now within my field.
How important do you think it is for more women to be in engineering as a broad sector?
I could not emphasize it more. I would think it's very, very important. I think women in general, we're so powerful, and having more women in such a beautiful field, it would be world changing.
Was that an ideal that you discovered as being part of the Women in Engineering group, or was that something you were able to bring to the society?
I think a bit of both. I think I always had an understanding that as women, we're very powerful and anything we can contribute to will add to the better good of it. And also getting a deeper understanding with the people I was in the society with and understanding their background and why they joined. It really, gave me more understanding of why women want to be in this field.
Where did the other people in the society come from? Like, why did they join? Were you able to help them discover themselves, like as part of the society?
A lot of the girls I spoke to said they joined because they just wanted that support in this male-dominated field where they could come back to us, talk to us about anything, any issues, or even positive. It doesn't have to be an issue, even positive things. They just wanted a woman to talk to because who better to understand them than another woman in their field? So a lot of our members came from girls who just wanted a support system.
Has the society changed over the few years you've been there? What have you been able to change and bring to it as the president?
So when I joined in second year, I was the events coordinator. And in second year, we didn't really have many members. We also didn't do many socials. I think just because we were still integrating between that COVID completely online year to in person. So it was a very difficult time for everyone, still completely understandable. And with that being said, now in final year, we managed to increase our membership by over 100%. We had so many different socials from, we had a Galentine's, we had paint and sips, we had visual board socials, we had meetups. We also had career-related ones like collaborations with BlackRock, where someone spoke to us about how he changed from engineering to business, giving us insight into interviews, applications. We also had another collaboration with JLR and also Olympus, where one of our members, committee member, our vice president, she did her placement year there. So fortunately, she managed to get 2 representatives from the company to come and talk to us on Bay Campus. So I would say it's changed in terms of our engagement with events and also the number of members.
What are your hopes for the future for the Women in Engineering Society now that you're leaving?
I would love them to just continue the legacy that the committee I was in put forward in 4th year, because I really think we did a very good job in terms of just creating that comfortable environment for everyone and making everyone, all women, know that this is an open and safe space. So I think my number one priority for the new committee coming in would be that they continue with that comfortable environment and also just explore. There's no hard and fast rules to this society. If they want to try something new, go for it. We tried new things and it worked. Some things we tried didn't work. So I think just being comfortable with understanding that everything is a learning curve, and most importantly, empowering women. I would love them to continue with that. And I can confidently say they will.
As a woman in engineering, what was the experience of engineering like here at Swansea? Was it too male dominated? Like, what were your biggest challenges as an international student and a woman coming to study engineering here?
To start off with, biomedical engineering itself was actually more female dominated, but most of our modules from first year right until final year were integrated with other disciplines such as aerospace, chemical, civil. So when we had joint lectures, that's when I got to see that it was more male dominated. But to be honest, that didn't change my experience at all. And I think that's a big thank you to the lecturers who created a safe space for us to be able to ask questions, especially with the office hours where, you know, they created that extra hour in the week for anyone to come and clarify on something they maybe don't understand or they just wanted to ask on a one-to-one basis. In terms of my biggest challenges, I think it would be I didn't do physics in my A-levels. I did chemistry, biology, and maths. So obviously because engineering being more physics dominated, that was a little bit tough for me. But I had a lecturer, my first lecturer in first year for physics. He was honestly amazing. Like, he really made me aware that I could ask him anytime for extra support. So even though that was a challenge, at the same time, it wasn't, because I was aware of the fact that I could always ask him to go over anything.
It would be very easy for a prospective female student to want to study engineering, but then be put off by the perceptions of the field. Would you recommend that they just keep at it?
Yes, 100%. I would say don't give up, because it is worth it in the end. And if anything, you're just adding to the numbers of women in engineering. So you might not think you're doing a good thing, but just by putting forward your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, coming into engineering, you're doing such a big thing for yourself and for the community of women around you.
Granted, you've only been here for 4 years, which isn't a huge amount of time for like a huge culture shift within a sector. But do you see the engineering field changing? Do you see it progressing more towards an equal gender balance?
So just based off from first year to my final year, I can already see the change. In first year, even though there were women, there's a lot more in my fourth year. So I can already see the change, and I think it'll only be bigger going forward.
So all positive moving forward, you think?
Yes.
Within engineering for you, what has been the thing you've enjoyed the most?
I think what I've enjoyed the most is the blend between learning about the human body and incorporating technology. I think that's been the best for me.
Outside of university, outside of studies, what have been your favourite experiences of Swansea?
Definitely visiting the beach, especially Rosili. That was the first time I went there was in second year, and it was stunning. It actually reminded me of Cape Town, which is my favourite place in the world. So just seeing that beach and how beautiful it is, and there were like little horses and everything. That was probably the best outdoor experience I had.
Okay, last question for you. What advice would you give to a prospective student, a prospective international student who's thinking of studying outside of their home country for the first time? Not necessarily coming to Swansea, but what would you say to them about that consideration? Like, what do you think that they should be looking for and looking to try and do when they do look outside of their home country?
I would tell them not to be afraid to ask for help. it can be a very daunting experience coming to a new country, especially if you're coming by yourself. With that being said, at the same time that you're going to ask for help, also put yourself out there. Don't put yourself in a shell. You're coming to a new country, experience the culture, experience the opportunities, because at the end of the day, you want to get the best of that country. So definitely, I would say, ask for help when you need to. Don't feel scared to, and try to get the best of it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for your time today, Khushbu. And if you've enjoyed this story and want to find out more about studying in the UK or listen to other episodes in this series, you can do so by visiting our website, swansea.ac.uk/international.